Okay. I'm going to mute myself and the floor is yours.
Okay. Hi, guys. First of all, I want to say thank you, Will, Cam, at the podcast for inviting me. I am humbled and honored to be here. So thank you for having me. My name is Crystal. I'm an alcoholic addict. I just made a year on April 28th last month. And so I have graduated from being a baby to being a teenager. And I started off my using kind of early on. I was probably in 7th grade with the alcohol started. And then when I was 14, an ex-boyfriend and his group of friends, they used to do crystal methamphetamine. I'm from Hawaii. I live in Vegas now. Sorry, I skipped that part. And in Hawaii, crystal methamphetamine is a very big issue. And once I tried it, I was hooked. So from age 14 to age 18. And growing up, I grew up in a pretty tumultuous household. My parents had been divorced and remarried to each other 5 times, as crazy as that sounds, to each other. So growing up, it was a lot of chaos, a lot of arguing, a lot of screaming, some violence. And I grew up with my daddy's little princess. My dad had money, and my mom, I had visitations with her, and she lived in lower income places with my sister and my brothers, who are my half siblings, but my siblings. And so I grew up on both sides of the spectrum. I went to a private school when I lived with my dad and my grandma. It was Asian, strict, academic. And then when I had visitations with my mom, it was the opposite of that. And so I kind of grew up not fitting in anywhere, but fitting in everywhere. So I fit in with multiple groups of people, but I always felt like I didn't belong because I didn't really know who I was, because I was growing up different ways. And my brothers were in and out of jail. They were and are alcoholics and addicts. I lost one brother early on to a drunk driver. And I lost another brother in my 20s to a drug overdose. He was in Hawaii. It was crystal methamphetamine and a bunch of other things. And even then, having those things, I still trudged down the road as an alcoholic and as an addict. When I turned 18, my dad was like, you are either going to get clean or I'm done with you. And at that time, I'd already been kicked out of my private school twice. I'd stolen thousands of dollars from him, been held at gunpoint, a bunch of crazy shit. And I knew when I was 18, I was choosing life or death. With the people that I was rolling around with, I knew I was either going to be a prostitute or I was going to end up in a ditch shortly after, something like that. That was just the life that was being lived. And so I went to drug court. I got clean off of ice, and they told me that you can never drink again. And I was like, I'm 18. What do you mean I'm never going to drink again? That's ridiculous. So I just continued on my adult life, drinking all the time. I worked in the nightclub industry since I was 21. Shortly then I moved to Vegas and I started working at the nightclubs out here. And a lot of the people, I would venture to say, majority of people that I've worked with for the last 15 years are alcoholics. And that's just the lifestyle that we were living. And I was in and out of abusive relationships. And now that I have done a lot of inner healing and inner child work, I understand the reason why I was in so many abusive relationships was because of the relationship that my parents had with each other. And I thought that that was normal. I grew up a lot hiding in closets because there was a lot of violence going on around me. And I was scared. And so I measured my worth by the relationship that I was in, about how my partner viewed me and treated me, which was usually very poorly. So my views on myself was that I was worthless, that I was deserving of abuse, mental and physical. And I drowned myself in alcohol because I did not know how to deal with whatever was happening around me, and I was miserable. So I don't believe I was an alcoholic until I was around 25. I went through a very, very bad breakup. The person I was with was married and had a family, and I did not know. I found out because she had found pictures of me and my number in their son's iPad. And I never really got any closure off of that. And that just broke me. And so that's when the drinking a whole bottle at night to go to sleep, that's when that started. I could not fall asleep. I would work at night and I would be hungover during the day, drink at work, drink after work. I was always drunk or hungover for over the last 10 years. And I have multiple DUIs. I've had 4, I believe. And so I was in and out of AA. I attempted a handful of times. Thank you, baby. I attempted a handful of times to get sober. But it never stuck. And I actually got kicked out of AA when I was in Maryland. My fourth DUI out of Maryland. I attempted the program, but I did not have the faith, and I was not able to wrap my brain around a higher power. I was raised Mormon, so my relationship with religion was very skewed. So I believed myself to be an atheist. And that perspective is, crystal bad, God good. And that was a standard that I could never live up to. So that was just a no for me. And I was a non-believer. And so this time around, when shortly after that, sorry, my husband found me at I was his waitress. And this was right before COVID hit. So COVID hit, I was out of a job and I didn't have any money, none of that stuff, right? So the drinking continued. My other brother who lived with me at the time, he passed away from COVID in June, and COVID happened in like January to March. So 2 months after that, he passed, and I just spiraled. And I literally was drinking like 2 bottles a day. I would wake up, drink it, go to sleep, wake up and do it again, over and over and over again. So it was basically the same thing as when I was working. I just didn't leave the house. And while I was working, I was still making very good money. I was still paying my bills. I was still getting, the accolades. And that's why I didn't really think that I had this huge problem, because my bills were paid. I had money. I was helping my family with money and when I could. And I felt like I had my shit together. And I was so miserable. I lived my life. I had accepted a slow death, and I accepted that I didn't deserve beautiful things in life. I accepted that I was a failure. I accepted that I was going to die alone, drunk and miserable. And part of it also, in 2018, my dad passed. So he still lived in Hawaii. I was out here in Vegas. So I was going back and forth, staying with him for a couple of weeks, coming back here, working and going back and forth. And what I really should have done at that time was I should have moved home to Hawaii. But I could not get out of my selfishness to be the daughter that he needed at that time. And I've still held on to a lot of guilt because of that. So that is stuff that I'm working through right now with my sponsor and also with outside help. And my dad had always just wanted me to get married and have a kid, the whole white picket fence. My dad was older, so he was part of that older generation where it was, you go to school, you get your degree, you get married, and then you have your family. And I did none of that stuff that I was supposed to do. And I also have endometriosis, which is a disease that females have like in their reproductive organs. And so I've had a couple surgeries for that, and I had to have my fallopian tubes removed. And I was going to the emergency room once a month because the pain gets so bad, but I was drinking so much and I knew that it was triggering the pain, but I kept drinking anyway. And it got to the point where, you know, the doctors at the emergency room wouldn't give me any pain medication because they thought that I was just a crackhead trying to get pain meds, you know, coming off the street, which is, you know, that happens a lot out here in Vegas. And so I had my fallopian tubes removed, so I can't conceive children, I can carry, but that was a really big failure to me because, first of all, as a woman, that's like one of your main jobs, right? To reproduce and have children. And I just felt like a complete failure. And so what was the point? What was the point of me trying hard to be this good person or have this beautiful life when, you know, I had no legacy to leave. I had no one else to love me. I'd isolated myself from other people. And so fast forward now to 2021, my last drunks were bad. You know, I'm a blackout drunk, so I don't remember things past a couple hours of of starting to drink. And my husband was the one who caught the brunt of my bullshit. And all of a sudden I turned from being the person in a relationship who was being abused to me being the abuser. Not in like a super physical sense, but, you know, mentally. And I did get physical with him a few times, and I'm not proud of that, you know. And I didn't understand in my mind how I had come from relationships where the roles were reversed, and it scared me. And we got married in January of last year, and not even a week after that, he had his shit packed in the car, ready to leave me. And we literally, it was like 5 days after we had gotten married. And that's how bad it was. My last drunk, we're at my girlfriend's house. He was trying to leave. I jumped on top of the car and he tried to pull out and I fell off the car. Don't remember any of this shit though. Woke up with like I was so fucked up and I was like, oh my God, what happened to me? And like my ankle is still fucked up from that. And he was like, you don't remember any of that? Of course he knew I don't remember anything. But the next morning, I called the AA hotline. I found the Zoom meeting list and I went to almost every meeting on that list for the first like week. That's all I did was just log on to Zoom meetings. I cried the whole entire time. And the love and the welcoming that I received from these strangers baffled me. Like, how could these people have so much love to give when obviously we're all in AA for a reason, right? We're all fucked up. So it's like, how, like, I didn't understand. And so this time around, I opened my mind and my heart up to a higher power, to maybe, right? Maybe there's a higher power. I believed I was an atheist, but I realized now I was more agnostic. So my sponsor, who was the first person that I spoke to that the first day I went, she was like, okay, well, she said God. And I was like, I don't even want to hear that word. Like, I can't even say that word. And she's like, we'll call him spirit. And I was like, all right, I fucks with that. We can call him spirit. So as time went on and I dove into, you know, the big book and going to meetings every day, I started to develop a relationship with God. And I had such a hard time of it before because of the religion aspect of it. So I'm extremely grateful that I was able to find and cultivate a relationship with God, the universe, my higher power, in a space that was not religion. And that really saved me because that faith, that trust, I didn't understand because it's like, I couldn't even trust humans. And then you guys want me to trust this thing that I can't see and I can't touch. Like it made no sense to me. But just the act of surrendering. And to me, I used to think that surrendering was like giving up, right? But It's not. It's surrendering is the releasing of the things that we hold on to. And what I came to find is after giving up the alcohol, I was still left with myself. And I didn't have, I mean, I have a drinking problem, but I have a thinking problem. And my thought process about myself, the way I talked to myself, like I had none of the self-worth, self-confidence, self-worth, self-love, self-care, none of that shit. I was an empty shell of a person that was just reaching out for anything that I could possibly grab to fill up this void that I had inside of me. And I didn't understand it. I didn't know what it was. I just knew that I was unhappy and I was miserable and I hated myself. And so finding my relationship with God was opened up this whole new world to me, of trust, of surrender, and then also going to these meetings, being honest with other people taught me how to be honest with myself, because I'm the easiest person that I can lie to. And then loving on other people and being of service to other people helped to teach me how to love myself. So I've gotten so much out of AA. I've gotten my relationship with God and a higher power. I've gotten spiritual principles. And that is the foundation of which I live my life. But that wasn't enough for me. I needed things broken down even more. So right when I quit drinking, my sister brought an opportunity to me, which is in the network marketing world. And at that time, I was just so broken that I was like, sure, whatever, I don't care. I'll try whatever you got. You know, I didn't have money at that time and everything. So I dove into that, and network marketing has now opened my mind up to a whole nother level of who I can be and my capabilities and the belief in myself. And to me, network marketing and recovery are one and the same. You know, I get my spiritual principles and my spiritual foundation from AA, and then all of the other things, mindset, personal development, that I all get from my business and the mentorships within my organization. And I would not be where I'm at in my life or in my recovery had it not been for network marketing, because it pushes me every day. It challenges me every day. When you're your own boss and you don't have anyone to answer to, like I'm the best student. Like I will take my notes, I'll do what I'm told, like all of that shit, right? But then it's like, okay, well, you're your own boss. And now I'm like, oh shit, what do I do now? You know, and it's just like recovery to me. Like you have to show up, you get to show up for yourself and you get to do the work. If you want the results, you have to do the work. And it's not this big, huge thing, right? We break it down into small steps, like atomic habits. You know, we do little micro shifts and we get 1% better today than we were yesterday. And that is my goal. And that's how I live my life. And I used to live in a fear mindset. Everything was scarcity. And what's kind of interesting that I'm kind of learning right now or seeing is with AA, it's very focused on kind of the negative things, right? So it focuses on, you know, our character defects. And I mean, I love the steps though, like step 10, I take an inventory, I keep my side of the street clean. I try not to blame others and I try to look within myself. But as I've been doing more healing and inner healing and the personal development, I can see how AA kind of focuses me on the things that I'm lacking, on the things that I do wrong. And for me to continue on a positive trajectory, I had to switch that. So it's going from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset and understanding that this person that I want to become is not this unattainable, far off person. It's literally who I am right now. I just have to step into that. And I feel like where I'm at in my life right now, my mind is catching up to that. I actually just did an inner healing session with my coach where we did a visualization. And in that exercise, she told me to visualize myself. And I visualized myself as 7-year-old me. And at the end of it, she thought it was very interesting because people typically envision themselves as who they are now. But I envisioned myself as that 7-year-old girl hiding in the closet because she was scared. And I just felt abandoned and alone. And that was like a light bulb to me that I had cut myself off from that innocent Crystal. And I saw her as like all the good things that I am, that I could be. And I just viewed myself as Crystal bad, everything else good. And so what I'm working on now through personal development outside of AA is to really cultivate that and to cultivate the belief in myself and the confidence in myself. And confidence is something that I struggle with, like I was nervous to do this, and that fear that I have inside of me, anytime I'm fearful of something, I do it, because that's where we grow and that's where we learn, is when we're uncomfortable. And once we push those boundaries a little more and a little more, then your world becomes bigger. Because as an addict alcoholic, we get trapped in our minds, we trapped in our thinking, trapped in the negative stories that we tell ourselves that are literally not true. If you read other books outside of AA, The Power of Now, The Untethered Soul, podcast, Ed Milet, Mel Robbins, Andy Frisella, there are so many things out there to help with recovery that have nothing to do with being an alcoholic, because it's all about mindset. It's all about thinking. It's all about your heart space, and opening yourself up to what is possible, and to choose love over fear. There's 2 ways that we can operate in life. We can either operate out of fear or we can operate out of love. And so today I just choose to operate out of love in as much as possible. And when I get to a point where I'm struggling, I give it to God. I give it to my higher power. And I turn and I ask how I can be helpful to the next person, to be of service. And those are things that I always take with me. I get from AA and from personal development, is to lose yourself in the service of others. And my business gave me the courage to be vulnerable about my recovery story and what I've gone through. And the objective is to reach someone in some way, shape, or form, regardless how big or small. But the goal is to be a light for yourself and then to be a light for others. And that's how we change the world. We change the world one little thing at a time. And it's beautiful. Life is beautiful. Life is a fucking mess sometimes. And I'm batshit crazy and I'm trying to keep my shit together. But when it comes down to it, like in my heart and in my mind, I know that as long as I do what I believe is the next right thing, and to step into the call, who God has called me to be, and my passion, my purpose to be of service to others, that I can't go wrong with that. And as long as I choose love and I put myself out there and I face my fears, I will continue to grow. And now my world went from being this small to I can do anything. There is no ceiling. The ceiling is me. And I choose not to hold myself back anymore. I choose to get out of my own way. And through AA, through network marketing, through this podcast, through any resource, it's just about finding the light within yourself, because the law of correspondence, right? Your world outside is reflected from what you feel inside. Your relationships with others, what's happening in your life, everything comes from within. So I'm just grateful that I'm in this space right now. Every day is an opportunity to learn and be better and to grow. And I am just so grateful for everything I have in my life. And I'm grateful for you having me here. Thank you so much for letting me share. I hope you guys got something out of this. If you would like, you can follow me on Instagram. It's Crystal Hiroko, CrystalHiroko. I would love to connect with you guys. We're all about recovering out loud, right? We recover out loud so no one has to die in silence. And it's a beautiful thing. So I love you guys. Thank you.